So today we are going to do the fifth skill for out of those 40 SAT math skills which you need to get the perfect score. So the fifth skill says it's related with the parallel lines, and it's telling you when you see two parallel lines that are crossed by another line. So you have seen it many times. There are two parallel lines, right, and there's one more line which is crossing that line. So obviously there'll be 8 angles formed, right? So it'll be 1 2 3 4. So you can mark it as 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So you have to remember only one thing. You don't need to remember the names of different angles. You just have to remember, if you're having two parallel lines that are crossed by another line, 8 angles are formed, right? So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. All the bigger looking angles are equal, and all the smaller looking angles are equal. So very simple. So you're able to clearly see this here, that angle 2, angle 3, angle 6, and angle 7, they are bigger looking angles, right? So they are all equal. So for example, if angle 2 is 100 degrees, that means angle 2 and angle 3 is also 100, and angle 6 is also 100, and angle 7 is also 100, right? So all the bigger looking angles are equal, and all the smaller looking angles are equal. So if angle 1 has to be like angle 1 plus angle 2 has to be 180. So if angle 2 is 100, so angle 1 has to be 80. So if angle 1 is 80, then angle 4 is also 80, and angle 5 is also 80, and angle 8 is also 80. So all the bigger looking angles are equal, and all the smaller looking angles are equal. So this will be very helpful in solving the equation. So let us try to do some questions related to this. So we're having question number 1 here. In the figure below, m is parallel to n. So very simple question here. M is parallel to n, and y is 45 degrees. So y is 45 degrees. So what is the value of x? So obviously if m is parallel to n, then there will be 8 angles formed, right? So there will be 8 angles formed. Let us mark it as y, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then x. So we're given that y is 45. So if y is 45, the smaller one is 45, then what will be angle 1? As we know that angle y plus angle 1 is equal to 180, sorry, is equal to 180. So y is 45. 45 plus angle 1 is 180. So you can say angle 1 is 135. 45, 55, 65, 75, 80, yeah, it'll be 135. So angle 1 is 135. If angle 1 is 135, this is a bigger looking angle, so x is also a bigger looking angle, right? Angle 1, angle 2, angle x, and angle 5, they are all equal, so they're all 135. So simply 135 is the right answer, because all the bigger looking angles are equal and all the smaller looking angles are equal. Now let us do question number 2. Question number 2 is saying that if x is equal to 66 and p is parallel to q, so there are two lines, p and q, and x is parallel, as x is 66 and m is parallel to n, are the four lines shown. So they are given here, so we don't need to make it, right? So if you're not given the the figure, then you have to make one figure to make it easier. So here you're having m is parallel to n, right? M is parallel to n, and p is parallel to q. There are four lines and they are intersecting each other. What is the value of z? So what is the value of z? Very good. So we are given the value of x as 66. So if x is 66, then how much will be this is a transversal. This is the line which cuts m and n, where m is parallel to n. So you'll be having 8 angles formed here. So if x is 66, then this bigger angle will be 180 minus 66. So it'll be 180 minus 66. So it'll be 114. Sorry, 66 plus 14 is 70. It's 80. Yeah, 114. So if x is 66, so if smaller angles are 66, then bigger angles are 114. So the bigger angles are 114, smaller angles is 66. Here also smaller angle will be 66, bigger angle will be 114, bigger angle will be 114, and smaller angle will be 66. And now we will use the second information. Q is parallel to P, right? P is parallel to Q. If P is parallel to Q, then there is a transversal M cutting them. So we'll forget about the previous transversal. We'll just check out these two lines here, and then there's a transversal here cutting them. So there'll be again 8 angles formed. So we'll forget about the line N. We'll just think about line PQ and M. So you'll be having 8 angles. So Z, and then there'll be angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. But we know that all the smaller looking angles are equal and all the bigger looking angles are equal. So Z is obviously a bigger looking angle, right? So Z is a bigger looking angle. So that'll be equal to 114. So that's it. So it's not 66, it is 114. Because Z will be equal to angle 3, and this will be equal to angle 114 here, 114 degrees. So Z is 114 because all the bigger looking angles are equal and all the smaller looking angles are equal. So Z is 114. Option D will be the right answer. Now let us see question number 3. In the figure below, M is parallel to N. So here M you're having parallel to N, and if Z is 40, so you're given this angle here as 40, and X is 130, so X is 130 here, then what is the value of Y? Well, if you're having X as 130 and M is parallel to N, then obviously you can just think about it like I'll make it with some other color. You can make 2 lines, and you have to think about those 2 lines only. These 2 lines, they are parallel, and then the transversal, you'll think about this transversal, right? You'll think about this transversal here. So this transversal is cutting them, so you'll be having 8 angles formed, 4 smaller and 4 big. So bigger angles will be same and smaller angles will be same. So bigger angle will be this whole thing. I'll just mark it with some color, with some blue angle. So let us take it red because blue is already done here. So this angle, right, this is a bigger one, and bigger one will be this one also, right, which is opposite to that. We have to forget about the another line. So red angles, they'll be equal, right? Red angles will be equal, and if we'll mark other smaller angles with black, so we can say black angles will be equal. Black angles will be equal, and red angles will be equal. So in case of red angles, you're having Z plus this angle here. Let's take it as angle 1. So Z plus angle 1, Z plus angle 1, this red angle, this whole red angle is equal to 130, right? Because all the red angles are equal. So Z plus angle 1 is 130 because they are bigger looking angles. So we can say that angle 1 will be 130 minus Z. Angle 1 will be 130 minus, and Z is already given as 40. So angle 1 is equal to 90, right? So angle 1 is 90. So now we can think about angle 1 as 90. And there's a transversal, one more transversal we can show here. We can mark now different colors. We can mark it with let us take it as green. No, green we have done. Let us take it as blue. So we can think about the 2 lines. We can think about the 2 lines now again, like this. I'll just make it a little bit more thicker to make it a little more clear. So it'll be like this, right? And we know that we know that now we're having transversal, this blue transversal cutting the two parallel lines, so we will be again having 8 angles. So we'll be having 8 angles, and we can mark them as bigger looking angles as green, right? Like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. So these 4 bigger looking angles are equal, and let us mark the smaller looking angles as red. So this smaller angle will be equal to this smaller angle, and this smaller angle will be equal to this smaller angle. So we want to calculate the bigger looking angle y. So bigger looking angle y will be, what you can say, this green angle, right? This green angle. And you are given that angle 1 is 90. If angle 1 is 90, then all the smaller looking angles are 90, right? So this will also be 90 here, and this will also be 90 here. And we know that y plus 90 has to be 180, right? So y plus 90 has to be 180, or y equals 180 minus 90. It's a linear pair axiom, so y equals 90 also. So y equals 90, and it's telling you figure not drawn to scales. So that's why we are feeling that angle y is bigger and angle 1 is smaller, but they are equal. They are equal. We got them as equal. Y is 90 also, and angle 1 is 90 also. So it is actually the real picture will be the two lines with the perpendicular transversal cutting there. So there'll be all angles will be 90. All angles will be 90. Is the actual picture, but it's telling you figure not drawn to scale, so we don't believe in the figure, we'll believe in our calculations. So we got the value of y as 90, so we'll plug in the value of y as 90 in the answer. Now let us see the medium level. So in the medium level question, you're having the two lines P and Q here in the figure, and you're given that Z is 45. So Z is 45 and Y is 95. Okay, so Z is 45, Y is 95. Then which of the following must be true? Well, we know that if the two lines are parallel and there's a transversal cutting them, then all the smaller looking angles are equal. Smaller angles are equal, and bigger angles are equal. And obviously smaller angle will be in the sideways of the bigger angle, so smaller plus bigger will always be 180. So smaller plus bigger will always be 180. So we know that smaller looking angle plus bigger looking angle will be 180, and smaller angles will be equal and bigger angles will be equal. So Z is 45. If Z is 45, then Y has to be 45, right? But it's telling you Y is 95, right? If Y is 95, that means these two lines are not parallel, because for the lines to be parallel, and if the lines are parallel and there's a transversal cutting them, all the bigger looking angles will be equal and all the smaller looking angles will be equal. So Y has to be 45, but it's telling you Y is 95, so P is not parallel to Q. Now X plus Y, there's a line P which is cutting another line, so X plus Y has to be always 180, right? So X plus Y has to be 180. Right, so X plus Y has to be 180. So we'll just consider this afterwards again. So Z is equal to X, Z is equal to X. No, we can't say that because it's a smaller looking angle and it's a bigger looking angle, and Z is 45. If Z is 45, it is given that Y is 95. If Y is 95, Y plus X has to be 180. So 95 plus X has to be 180. So X you are getting as 85. Not as you're not getting Z as as x, because z is 45 and x is 85, so this is also not true. X plus z is x plus z is 180, so x has to be, x is 85, so x is 85 and z is 45, so let us add them. 85 plus 45 is 130, so they are not equal to 180, right? Y equals 2x, so y is 95, 2 times x, 2 times x is 85, so 95 is not equal to 170, right? Because 2 times 85 is 170, so these are all wrong except this x plus y equals 180, because in a linear pair axiom, if you're having a line, the two line and there's a transversal cutting them, the angles which are formed, on one side of the line, they are having the sum as 180. So we'll have x plus y equals 180. So that's the only option which is correct here in question number 4. Now let us move to question number 5. And the figure below, here also figure is not drawn to scale. So in the figure below, if A is parallel to B, so there are two lines, they're parallel, and the measure of x is 22, so this smaller angle here is 22. What is the measure of y? So this bigger angle. Okay, but we're having one transversal at a time. We can't just combine all the smaller looking angles of this transversal with the smaller looking angles of this transversal. We have to calculate the angles here, and we have to calculate the angles here differently, right? Because they are different transversals. They are cutting the lines at different angles. So we don't know whether these smaller angles will be equal to this or not, or the bigger looking angles will be equal to this or not. So what we can do is we know that 108 is here and there's a triangle here, right? And this y is a bigger angle. So when you'll consider this transversal, you'll be having 8 angles, right? Y and other 4 here and other 4 here, right? So here also you'll be having 4 angles. All the bigger looking angles will be y, right? All the bigger looking angles will be y. So this will also be y, right? Outside the triangle, and inside the triangle you'll be having 180 minus y, because when you're having a line and there's a line cutting it, so y is here. Some of them should be 180, so this angle has to be 180 minus y. So in this triangle, what we can do is, in this triangle, we can take this angle as 180 minus y, right? So, and we know that sum of the angles of the triangle is 180, right? So we can say x plus 180 minus y plus 108 is equal to 180, because we know that sum of the angles of the triangle is 180. So we can subtract 180 to both sides. This will be cancelled out, and we can say that x minus y is negative 108, right? And we know that x is 22, so 22, I can write it here, 22 minus y equals minus 108, or you can say that y equals 22 plus 108, right? So y equals 22 plus 108, so that is equal to 130. So y is 130. That is option E. So in this trick, in this skill, what we got is, whenever you're having two parallel lines and there's a transversal cutting them, there will be 8 angles formed. All the smaller looking angles will be equal and all the bigger looking angles will be equal. And if the transversal is exactly like, on the as a perpendicular, then all the angles will be 90. All the angles will be 90, right? Bigger looking angles will be equal, smaller looking angles will be equal, and also this transversal, which is on one side, is different than the another transversal which is on another side. So we can't combine smaller angles of this with the smaller angles of this. We can't say that these smaller angles will be equal to these smaller and this right side smaller angles. No, because the transversal is different, right? So this will be your 5th skill which you need. And now after this we'll discuss the 6th skill.